All right, well, you know what? We'll start off slow here, so there's really no reason to wait too much longer. Um, oh, Patricio from Ecuador. Wonderful. I've never been to Ecuador, but it's on the list. Okay, all right, everybody. So this webinar is just going to be covering the basics, and I'll try to be watching the chat, so I'll try my best to answer questions as they come up. I can't always get to everything, and I'd like to keep this webinar to mostly the fundamentals of Frontly so that we can just focus on that and help out our newer users. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right from the Google spreadsheet, and then we'll build up a simple app from there. So we can maybe even talk it through as we're going. And can I just get confirmation from at least one person that you guys can see my screen that's showing the Frontly page? Should show the data sources screen. Okay, great. Thank you. This is very strange talking without any audio feedback at all from anyone. So it's kind of an odd thing here. But anyway, thanks again for joining. Let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show off my spreadsheet. Now, I'm not going to literally make the spreadsheet right in front of you because there's really nothing to it. In mind, this has not been imported into Frontly yet. This is like very starting point. So if you basically just need your data to be structured in columns. So that means the very, very first row is going to be the column headers, and any values below that are going to be your data. And you can see we have a few different types here, everything from a date to a number. We've got a name. We've got a status, which is also just another text field. And then we've got a customer image. So this is nothing special that Frontly did, but there's this cool website called randomuser.me. And if you basically, it just has a way of every number here. So it's like portraits /men/1. This allows us to just get pictures of random people. And so in this case, I've got 20 pictures of men from 1 to 20. That's just nice to have so that the data looks more like real people. But of course, if you're doing this in your app, you would probably have real images or logos or something like that. So all I need to do to get started is I'm going to copy the URL here. So it's super easy. You don't have to do anything other than just grab the full address bar URL and paste it into your Frontly page. So I'll show you right here. We just need to go add data source. You'll see this when you don't have any data sources. And I'm going to select the Google Sheets. So I'm going to do Command C or right click, paste, whatever you want to do. You just have to get that URL of your Google Sheet into here and then click import. So everything went well. And because I only have one tab in my spreadsheet that I've called applicants, that imported instantly. If I were to have multiple tabs, then instead of that instant import, I would have this sort of interim screen that would ask me which tabs I want to import. Also very simple. You just check off the tabs you want, and that keeps your account clean because often your Google spreadsheet will have possibly 5 or 10 tabs depending on how you've organized things. And so you probably don't want them all imported. Now, I've run an import and something strange has happened. I know why it happened, but I'd like to explain it because I've definitely seen this confuse users before. So Google has a weird way of basically when you create a new column, it tries to take the formatting style of the column that was there before. So just by happenstance, because my date column happened to be at the far left here, Frontly has injected this Frontly ID column. And when we inject the values, we actually inject it like 1, 2, 3, just sequential numbers. But Google has a weird way of kind of converting that into a date because somehow this accidentally got recognized as a date column. So that's not something that Frontly does, but I can fix this in 2 different ways. I could manually fix it by just typing in 1, 2, 3, and if I want, I can just click and drag. That's one of the cool things about Frontly is that we're not trying to complicate the data storage aspect. We don't, we just let you use a Google spreadsheet. And so you can make changes in the spreadsheet. And that's one of the nice parts. We expect that the goal of you using Frontly is to build these apps so that you can do things, in a more scalable manner. But it's also nice to be able to just go back to basics sometimes for something as simple as that. So I'm going to leave it like this, but I'm going to talk about the Frontly ID just a little bit more. So Google spreadsheets do have row numbers. As you can see, we have row 6, 7, 8. These are great, but those row numbers don't change if the data changes. And so in order for Frontly to treat your Google spreadsheet like a database where, we can actually pay attention to specific rows, we can update specific rows and delete them, what we need to do is we need to have a unique identifier. And so in a real database, you'll always have a unique identifier, and that's called the primary key. In our case, what we've done to keep it simple for you is we auto-generate a new column called Frontly ID, and we add it to the start of your sheet. We automatically handle the unique identifiers here as well. So I've populated this, but if I go and add a new row, either manually here or through the Frontly app, Frontly will detect and make sure that that gets auto-populated. So all you have to know is that the Frontly ID is very important and you should not delete it. Once it's here, you can move it, or if you really wanted to, you could even hide the column. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless you really want that hidden for some reason. It's kind of nice to have a sense of the unique identifier in case there's a chance that your data happens to be duplicated if you end up having two records with the same values. So I'll keep it at that for now. And you can see that I've imported this data source. It's now called a linked source. So if I click on this, I have this little pop-up window, and there are some settings that I can work through here. We won't really worry about the hidden filters just yet, but we can look at these column defaults. So this isn't critical to set, but it can be kind of nice. Frontly does the best we can by a quick scan when we're importing to see, for example, this field was called date. So Frontly assumes that the type is a date, and that determines that you're going to see an actual date picker in the form when you're editing it rather than just a plain text box. So that's really nice. When you have a date type, you can even adjust the date format. And so all this does is it helps Frontly figure out exactly what format your date is stored in and make sure that it aligns with our system. So let's double check my dates. You can see here, my dates are year dash month dash day. Yeah, year, month, day. So right here, my date format, it's really close, but it's actually not exactly the same because these are slashes. This is just the default. And so what I want to do just to ensure that I'm going to have a smooth experience is I'm going to click on this dropdown and I'm going to find the one that perfectly matches my date format. In this case, it's the same except for with these hyphens or dashes. So year, month, day, I'm going to select that. It doesn't make any visual change here, but when we go to use it in a form, we'll see that it's nicely using a date picker instead of just a plain text field. So the same goes for this customer image. Frontly has detected because it had the name image in it. We basically figured it was an image field. And so we've pre-chosen that for you. And then same goes here for the status dropdown. So we've tried our best to detect if we thought that this was a select dropdown. And because we did, we've pre-populated it with the unique values for you. And so you can go and edit this. If I want, I could add another option, hired and then fired. And so, we'll leave it at that. But that just means that when I add a select dropdown or when I have a form, these are going to be pre-populated as the options. So you don't have to make these changes here, but it's nice because it just means that you'll have less work to do whenever you're adding these, adding this to your pages. So Janice is asking about EU data. So in this section here, let me go back to the date. So in this section here, there are just some of these standard ones. I shouldn't say standard. I mean, we're in North America, so we've added some of the basics. But what you can do is if you go, let me see. Oh, so I've clicked on the advanced settings. I guess if you just by default, you just have these fields. But if you go click on show advanced, format type allows you to set custom. And then you can literally type dd.mm.yyyy. So yeah, I won't leave it like that just because I don't want it to conflict with mine. But yeah, that should work. So we try to make it as flexible as we can be. Anyway, let's go over to create a page. So we've got this friendly little guy here just waiting for us to create something. So I'm going to click new page, and I'm just going to call this applicants. I guess I didn't really talk about it too much, but yes, my sample data are sort of theoretical job applicants. That's what I decided. I mean, really, it's just a few fields here. It could be almost anything, but I've added this status field for the applied, interviewing, hired, and now we have fired as well. So when you create a page, it's a blank slate. You can really do anything with it. There are a lot of different things you can do. One of the common options, especially in a case like this with job applicants, is we might want to use a certain type of block, which is called the Kanban. So the Kanban is, and I'm probably not pronouncing this correctly. There have been a lot of debates about this, but I'm just going to keep saying it and sound confident. So the Kanban is this progress board that you see in a lot of project management style apps. And so when I click on the Kanban, what's going to happen is it's going to tell me, hey, the Kanban needs a data source. And so it's forcing me to select one of my existing data sources to complete the setup. And so I only have one, so this is very easy. I'm just going to click on applicants, and you can see that without really having done anything, there's already something going on in this Kanban preview. Now, I will be able to change this after over here in the sidebar, but I want to make an important point here. So all of the settings related to the block really do determine the outcome. And so in this case, the system has just kind of detected and auto selected one of my columns to use as the separating field, but it chose the name field, which is not what I want. What I want is the status field, because in my case, my statuses were interviewing, applied, hired, etc. So I'm going to hit complete setup. And now my Kanban is starting to look a lot closer to what I wanted. I can still make changes though, and that's the power of Frontly. So one thing I can do is I can adjust the order, because really I want, actually, no, I actually want this order: applied, interviewing, and hired. If I want, these are lowercase right now. And so I can go in and I can just adjust the label so it looks a little more professional. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add one more manually, and I'm going to call this fired. And an important point here is that I can set the label to whatever I want, but I want the value to perfectly match what I have in my spreadsheet. So in this case, I mean, I don't have any that are set as fired right now, but I can make that change, and I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see in my preview, I can also hide and like expand and contract these if I want a little more space in the editor. But you can see it's showing the actual values from my sheet here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go change one of these to fired. So, or I'll change two. George and Hannah are now fired. So this isn't going to update immediately, and Frontly won't proactively go and update it for the admin side. In the live app, it would update. But if I want to see that refresh data, all I have to do is go right here when I have this block selected and click refresh data. Very simple. You can see that's been updated immediately. Now, to make this a little nicer, again, some of these fields, these are just auto-generated by Frontly. As you set up your Kanban, we just detected some things and added a few fields, but you might want to change these around. So you probably want the name field to be one of the primary ones. I can just delete these and I can start from scratch. So I have, when I'm managing my Kanban fields, I get to select which column or field I want to display. I can select the font style, and I can even adjust the color if I wanted to. I think I'll just keep that to be sort of a nice black, and maybe make that a little smaller. But yeah, so I can go and add multiple fields here. Maybe, I think in this case, I already have the status as the column, so I'm not really worried about that. Maybe I'll add a badge, actually. So that's another option that we have. We have the standard fields, which are just text fields. You can select which field stores the image, which in this case is already correct. And then if you select the badge, then it will just basically take what your value is, and it will wrap it in this little badge here. So one thing that's kind of cool, I could apply custom colors to this. I kind of like it with my status, but I could do it with the date. I could do it with kind of whatever I wanted. Any of these values would be fine. The salary. And yeah, so what's another interesting thing, which is not really what we want here, but there's this split badges option. If I click on that, it actually detects commas in my column value, and it splits them up. So you don't want to do that if you're using a number field. But if we were, for example, in a situation where a user had multiple values, I'm trying to think of an example. I'll just create a new column here called tags, and we'll just, whatever, we'll just add some random fields here. Maybe I'll just copy my status, and in this case, let's say hired, fired, applied, interviewing. This doesn't really make sense in the context, but I just want to show you that if I go back and I'll refresh my data again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this badge use my tags field. And you can see that when the split badges is off, it's just showing whatever content is in there in a single bubble or badge. But once I hit split, then it splits it up. And we actually automatically color code them. So you can see that even though they're different values in different, separated by commas, we've assigned the color of yellow to all of the applied values, and the color of interviewing or green to all the interviewing. So there you go. Pretty simple setup here. And so before bothering to make any other changes, why don't we go and actually preview this and see what happens. So I'm in my live app now, and you can see in the address bar, so my app is called, or my subdomain is called Sample June 2024, and I can access that by going to that .frontly.ai. So when you're setting up your app and you haven't added a custom website domain like yourwebsite.com, this is how you'll access the app. So if you wanted to send the link to somebody, it would be yourapp.frontly.ai. And you can change this right on the settings page when you're in your app. If you go to right in the general, it's on the very first page, this Frontly subdomain here. So that's really important. You're going to find that you're probably sending this link to people, whether it's on your team. So there you go. We're in our live page. And I did make a few styling adjustments, as we saw, but functionality-wise, I didn't really have to do all that much. And without having to change anything else, just by clicking on a record, Frontly automatically pops up this nice little form for managing the data. Now, here is where the previous steps that I was talking about for the column defaults come into play. Notice that I didn't have to manually set this when I was creating this page, but we already know that this is a date type. And so we have this nice date picker component that allows the user to just really cleanly manage, in a little calendar. So I can make changes like that. I can manually adjust values just by typing here. And I even have this image uploader. So if I wanted to, I could click this button. It would pop up a little image upload widget, and I can change the image. So this is really user-friendly. And of course, we also have this status dropdown, which allows the users to, only select from the values that you deem valid. So I've made a few changes. And so who am I editing right now? I'm editing Diana Green, which is not necessarily maybe matched up with the correct user. These are just random images, but I'm going to move Diana Green to hired. And you can see as soon as I did that, Diana Green moved into the hired column. Now, one of the main benefits of using the Kanban board is that you can visually drag as well. So let's say I've just interviewed this user or this person, or they applied and now they're going into the interviewing. I can just click and drag and that person is moved over there. Now, behind the scenes, this is actually updating our Google spreadsheet in real time. So let's go find Alice Johnson. You can see the status has been updated to interviewing. And if I go back, I'm going to move it over to hired and I'm going to try to jump over. Yeah, there you go. So it takes about half a second, maybe. It's pretty much instantaneous. It updates the value in the spreadsheet. And so you can see how already, compared to managing data in a Google Sheet, this is pretty powerful. And I think we've probably covered this Kanban enough, but let's go do something else. So I'm going to maybe just create a new page, and I'm going to call this test page because I don't know what I'm going to build yet. So we have some other standard blocks, which are the table, of course. And as usual, I'm forced to select my spreadsheet. Now, similar functionality without making any other changes. If I go to this live page, I have my default detail view here, always ready to let me edit records. And I can even create brand new records as well. So you can see if I click this new record button, we have a form that will do the exact same thing. I can select values, I can fill in all the information. And if I hit save, that new record will be added immediately to the page. I'm not going to bother doing that, but it's very, very easy to go through. So I think what is maybe one of the most powerful features of Frontly that users should understand when they're getting started is this concept of filtering your data. So when I say filtering, I mean, let's say you have a few different types of users and you want them to all be able to log into the app, and you only want certain users to see certain information. Right now, as you can see, all the information from my spreadsheet is showing up here. I haven't added any filters or any permissions or rules or anything like that, but I think it would be really useful for us to do that. So I think I'm going to start by going back to my data set, and I'm going to think about this for a second and figure out what I want to do. I think that maybe we want to have the ability for the applicants, maybe they want to log in so they could sort of track their own application. And then we can also have our internal team, of course, who can manage these. I did not use AI in this case to create this structure. Maybe what I'll do is right after I finish doing this sort of filter demo here, I can jump over to the AI app generator because I do think that that's useful. But it's also really powerful to understand the fundamentals here, because even when you generate an app with AI, it's going to end up being something similar to this, and then you'll be able to edit it as you go. So what I'm going to do is something really, really simple. I'm going to go over to my users page here, and I only have myself right now as a user, and I'm the owner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually add a user. I'm going to call this test applicant, and their email is going to be testapplicant@frontlyapp.com. So I'm going to add a password, and let me just make sure I'm typing that in correctly. And let's see what we want to do here. So I'll create the user. I won't add anything special here. And now I'm going to go over to my user groups. So I think this is probably the best way to do this. We probably want to have two sections of our app. One of them, which is the sort of applicant portal, where an applicant who has submitted something can kind of review their own application, I guess, or at least the list of applications that they submit. Now, if I go add user groups, I'm going to add two. And these are going to be the groups of users that I want to segment in my app. So I'm going to call this one applicants. And I'm going to set their default page to, well, let's say the test page. And then I'm going to have admin. And this is going to be applicants as their default page. So that just means when they log in, they'll just be sent to those pages. And Now what I can do right from here is I can go to my page permissions section, and I can specifically say the applicants page is only available to the admins. And then I can say that this test page, which I'll probably change the name of, but the test page is only available to applicants. And so this is just the first step in segmenting the user's access to this app. So what I can do is I can go back to my page, and when a user is logged in, so let me go to the live page here. So right now you can see that I have access to both of these pages, and I'm the admin right now. I'm still logged in as Patrick at frontllyapp.com. So what I want to do is I want to say that admins can only see this applicants page. And so all I have to do is go over to my users, and I've already created my user groups, and I've even set up the page permissions. So now all I have to do is click on me, Patrick, and I can go manually adjust the user groups that I want Patrick to be a part of. You'll see a warning here, which is pretty important to understand. If you don't set any user groups for a user, they're basically assumed to have access to everything. That's because when you're getting started and you haven't actually defined all these values, you don't want people to just be limited to 0 pages. So you do have to be intentional about your setup, but this is our way of making it easy. If you don't make any changes, everyone has access to everything. And if you go in and start adding, then you'll start to see that people are limited. So I'm going to say Patrick is in the admin section or user group, and I'm going to hit save. And so I believe now, if I go back to my page, I'll just delete some of these tabs here because I have a bunch. I'm going to hit refresh. And because I don't have access to this test page, I am basically booted out of the app. Like it's just showing me the login page because I don't have access. Now, if I go back to my pages, so let's see, the other page is called applicants. Now, if I type that in just to get back into the app, I have access. And you can see that I don't even have the page available in the navigation here. So just to kind of recap what I did, because I'm probably going a bit fast, but trying to fit it all in here. So I only have 2 users right now, and I've defined these 2 different user groups, admin and applicants. And to start, as a very simple segmentation of my app, I've determined that this applicants page is a place for my admins to review all of the applicants. I realize now that the way I named it is kind of confusing, but the applicants page is only viewable to admins. And then this test page, which I should probably change the name of to, my applications or something like that. My applications. There you go. That should be a bit more obvious now. So now we have this page that's limited only to the users who are, this is only to the users who have applied, but right now they're still going to see all the applications. So what we also want to do now is figure out a way to make sure that the users can only see their specific application. Okay, so I'm just going to check the chat here. So, we got Janice saying, what about restricting the ability to edit data for normal users as opposed to admins? Great question. So there is a way to do that. Now, in this case, because I'm segmenting the entire pages, what I can do is I can just go, if I didn't want them to be able to make any changes, which I think makes sense in this case. So let's say I've created these applications and now I'm just reviewing my own applications that I've already created. I probably don't want the user to be able to edit that. So what I can do is I can go into the detail view settings. So this is something we haven't really talked about, but it's pretty important. And so I showed you already how when you're a user in the app and you click on a record, it shows this default detail view. This is customizable, but that's the default because for the majority of cases, you have a bunch of records, you want to click on one and you want to edit it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this drop-down list here. So I have the default, which is the one that's currently set. I could set a custom view, which is this entirely different view, or I could set a custom action to be triggered when this is clicked on, like a certain row in this table. I'm actually going to leave it at default, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Edit Detail View. So now we enter essentially a different part of the page builder that's just specifically focused on this pop-up detail view. Now, in this page, I can actually go and I can make changes. Like if I wanted to make a certain field, maybe instead of making it tags, I could make this a multi-select dropdown, and I could add options here, option 1, option 2, and so then you can see, I don't know if this will work in the admin mode, but yeah, anyway, it doesn't really work in the admin mode, but in the live mode, this becomes a select dropdown. So every single field, you can just click on it and you get this little form that pops up here. You can have, there's a bunch of advanced settings that you can set up, like add a hint to your field so that there's a little question mark bubble with some information. You can add a placeholder, which would be the default text if it's empty. And then this is also, of course, where you can update your types, and there's many different types, as well as field validation. So even in this simple form, if you click edit validation, you'll see all the fields are required by default, which means that the user won't be able to hit that save button unless they've actually added valid values to those fields. But if you don't want that, you can turn it off for individual fields. You can also set some other validation, like it's a valid email address, or it's a number, or it's, a toggle is set to true, those kinds of things. So lots of really powerful things here. And I highly recommend you just spending some time clicking around, exploring the different settings. Now, to answer Janice's question, I hope that's how you pronounce it, but there's a section in here that is this sort of simple version, which is allow editing records and allow deleting records. So we probably don't want our applications or our applicants to be able to delete their own applications. So I'm going to turn that off. And then let's say we don't want them to edit them either. So now you can see, as soon as I turn off that toggle, it actually changes this view. Instead of it being a form, it's just what we call an info list. It's essentially this view only grid of labels and values. And so you can still make a few small changes. There are still technically different types, but most of them aren't as relevant here. You can see the image type still works. It displays an image. There's a few other things like a link, things like that. But so yeah, this is how we allow editing records or not on the entire section. However, if you want to make it all, I think, there are a lot of different use cases for, when you want to allow people to edit things and create things. But if you want something to be a little bit more advanced, instead of just simply turning it off here, you could leave it on. And then we have this section down here that is definitely more advanced. It's called, oh, sorry, this is the wrong section. This is a custom action that you can trigger, but I know there is something. I think it's in the, I wonder if it's on the other page. Sort of forgetting where these settings even are here. So, I think it's in the More tab, because this is a little more advanced, so we kind of hide it just to not confuse people. So there's this section here in the More tab called Permissions. You can see that there's allow editing, allow deleting, and allow creating. So these are three different features, let's call them, where you can define custom conditions that must be true in order for a user to be able to edit or delete or create records. And so if you wanted to have a single page where different types of users were logging in, and you wanted to give them different access just strictly based on who they are when they log in, you could set up a condition. So conditions are admittedly more advanced, and they will pretty much always require the use of variables, which we have not discussed yet on this call, but we can dig into that very briefly here. So a condition generally will have a value 1, and then an operator, which is sort of the comparison between the two values, and then it'll have a value 2. These could be static values, but that doesn't really make sense in this case, because we want to adjust it based on the user who's logged in. So if I wanted to, I can click on this little pop-up here, and it tells me some of the variables that I can insert into this window. This isn't always a completely extensive or exhaustive list. There are some times where variables aren't showing, but they are available. We just try to show the common ones here. And so I can inject this user variable. And when I click on that, it's asking me which field do I care about. So in this case, I'm just going to say user email. And if I wanted to, I could say user email equals patrick@frontlyapp.com. So I'm going to hit save, and oops, I think I'm editing this on a page that I haven't really given myself access to. So maybe I won't bother showcasing that. But we definitely have documentation on variables and conditions and things like that. And so now you know that it is possible to set custom permissions for setups like this, where you want different users to access different things. But what I want to do is I want to show data filters. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to my users, and I'm going to click on my test applicant. So I'm still logged in as my owner right now. I haven't actually logged in as my test applicant. But if I want to log in as this user just while I'm testing right now, there's a really easy way to do that as an admin, which is I can click on this get login link option. And that's going to allow me to, if I just click here and paste, this is going to automatically log me in as a user. Now, you can see here in the top right, you can see is test applicant at Frontly. So that's great. And now I can go to my applications page. So it looks like maybe I haven't totally set this up correctly, because I don't really want my applicants to be able to view this other applicants page. So maybe I can review my setup here. I guess just like I did with my other user, I didn't actually go and add myself to this user group. So that's good. So I'm going to set myself to be an applicant. This is the test applicant. So now if I just go back, and I'll close that. I have too many tabs open. Sorry. I'm going to refresh this page. There you go. So now my app is officially segmented. My first user, patrick@frontlyapp.com, only has access to the all applications page, which was the Kanban board. And my test user only has access to this other page. But like we talked about, right now, this is applications from all users. So probably that's not what I want. And what I probably want to do is, in this case, I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm going to limit it by email. So if I don't have an email field in my spreadsheet, but I can easily add one. And so let's just assume that when the user is submitting their application, I will also have this email field in the form. And so the user will have to enter their email when they're submitting an application, and then it will be stored here. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to adjust one of these users to be called test applicant just by name, just so that they match the user in my spreadsheet. And then I'm also going to copy and paste their email address into this email field. So again, I'm just trying to move quickly here. I'm only going to add this one, but you can see that you would want to have this populated. Hopefully other people aren't experiencing the frozen screen. Okay, so maybe refresh. that's the golden rule. Always refresh the page. Okay, so all I've done is I've added an email field here, and our goal is to segment this page so that when I'm logged in as test applicant, I only see my own applications. And so one of the steps that I can take, if I want to go at the data source level and refresh the data, so you can see here it says I have 6 columns, but I just added a new one. And so what I'm going to do is, yes, exactly. Yeah, you just always have to turn it off and turn it on again. That is pretty much always true. Okay, great. We're all good. So what I did here is I just clicked on this little drop down in my linked sources, and I clicked refresh data and headers. So again, this is the exact same function that I triggered on the other page from the spreadsheet dropdown. I just clicked that refresh data button, but I can also do it here. And so that's great. That's all I had to do. I just basically brought that data into Frontly. And so now when I go to my applications page, we can see that I do have one record that has test applicant at friendlyapp.com. And because that matches the user who's logged in, I can now create a filter. And this is going to be really, really easy. So on a lot of the blocks, like the table, the Kanban, the grid, basically any that have a list of data, even the calendar, we have this filters tab. And so what we want right now are hidden filters. And we also have visible filters. And so let me explain the difference between these. It's pretty straightforward. Visible filters are filters kind of like this search bar here, where it's for your user. They get to use it to filter the data. So for example, I have, I can search in real time here, and I'm allowed to do this as a user. This is actually the built-in search bar, but the visible filters operate the exact same way. So maybe I'll add one just to show you. Let's say I wanted to have a filter for salary, and I want to set it to salary is greater than the value that the user is entering. So I'm going to call this salary, and I selected my operator, and you can see that that's been replicated here. So I'm going to hit save, and I haven't set up my other filter yet, but I just want to show you this. So I've got my general search, which searches all the fields. And then I have this salary greater than. So what I can do is I can start, I might have not set something up correctly, or it could be that there's commas in here that it could be messing up the data. So there's always troubleshooting involved when you're building an app, because you're bringing in your own data, and Frontly sometimes doesn't have all the context we need. So I think what we might need to do here, I'll have to double check. So I think if I go to my desired salary column, maybe I want to set this as a number. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking maybe that now that I set this as a number, it might function correctly. And I could be wrong. So we'll see. And if I am, we might just move on. So salary greater than, okay, for some reason that's not working right now. Maybe just for the sake of the demo, I'll just try a different filter so that we don't have to waste time trying to dive too deep into that. So what we'll do is we'll just do status. That's probably even a better example, because this is really common. You want to have a select dropdown, and I want to have status equals. And I think that the way these select dropdown visible filters work is that if I leave it blank, what we do is we automatically populate your dropdown with the values that are displayed in the page. So the current data that we have right now, which is all of these statuses, should hopefully be populated here. Yeah, that's correct. So now as the user, because this is a visible filter, that means that it's visible to the user. And you can see that's really, really nice to be able to do that. I can just very quickly filter things out. This would make more sense for the admin view, but just because we're editing this page, I set it up. So now you can add these kinds of filters. There's a lot of different kinds of filters, but it depends on your data. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to remove that because that doesn't really make sense in the context of this page. But what we want is a hidden filter. So the hidden filter is as simple as that. It's a filter that's happening, but the user doesn't see it and they don't have any ability to edit it. This is where the sort of security side of things comes in, because you want to make sure that your users only have access to the data that you want them to. So in this case, it's very simple. I'm going to add a hidden filter, just one filter, and I'm going to select the field, which is going to be email. That's the email field right here, and also shown here. And then I'm going to go back into my little variable injector thing here, which might not be super easy to see because it's kind of light gray, but I can click on user email. So there we go. I've got a hidden filter with field email equals user.email. So when you really just go through the logic, it's fairly logical. We're basically just saying, only show me the records where the email field matches the logged in user's email. So if I go back and refresh this, hopefully, yes, there we go. It worked. So now when my user logs in, they will not be able to get access on this page to any other records. And there are no other pages that they have access to. So in this sense, this app has now essentially been secured to some degree because my user can log in, doesn't really matter what they do. Right now, they do have the ability to create new records, but they can edit their record, and that's basically it. I think we're not letting them delete records right now, and that's based on my test. Now, if I go and I want to prevent them from editing, then it's just as simple as what we did before. So I can prevent them from editing, and I think I can still let them create, which is what we want. So you can see the new record is still there, but now if I click on this, they just get essentially a little preview of what they've done, and that's all we need to do. So I hope we haven't gone too fast over some of these things. As boring as some of them might be, this is really the fundamental aspect of Frontly, is getting your spreadsheet set up, adding your blocks to your pages, and then starting to really think about the high level structure of how people are going to use your app. So, is it just one type of user? If so, you might not need to set up user groups at all. And you might just want to focus on hidden filters. Or maybe you don't need any filters because it's just an internal dashboard for your team and there's no limitations of what you want people to be able to see. So there's no golden rule for using Frontly. But one thing that I think would be really nice to go over right now is to show you the AI app generator. So I'm going to go and I'm going to create a brand new app. And I'm going to click Create with AI. So this page is going to take us through the steps outlined over here. We start with a prompt. Then we're going to figure out the spreadsheets, the spreadsheet columns. We're going to see a preview of the sample records that the AI is generating, the pages, and then the page blocks. And then we're going to hit preview, and we're going to warp into an app that, is something that could have taken, a couple hours to set up potentially. So I'm just going to start, and let's think about what would be a good example. So maybe something like, I work at a hospital and I need to track new patients and their appointments. So I could describe more details if I want to. And if I don't, then most likely the AI is going to keep it pretty simple, but then the AI also gets to sort of decide for us what it thinks is logical. And you'll see very soon here, we're going to get the control about what happens at each step. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I work at a hospital and I need to track new patients and their appointments. So I'm going to hit submit. And in just a few seconds, we have the suggestion from the AI of which spreadsheets we want to use. I asked for this and it sounds perfect. We're going to have 2 spreadsheets, patients and appointments. That's all I have to decide at this step. Then I can click next, and now it's going to suggest the sheet columns. So it's giving me name, date of birth, contact number, address, emergency contact for the patients. And then we've got patient ID. This is really interesting. So the AI is smart enough to understand that not only do we have patients and appointments, but the appointments should have a patient ID field which links them together. So the actual linkage inside Frontly won't necessarily be automatic, but the data structure will be in place so that my patients and their appointment records will actually have some kind of link between them, which is really nice. So we've got appointment date, doctor, department. Yeah, this is awesome. If I wanted to, I could, I can add fields and I can remove fields. So maybe I'll go to patients and I'm going to say, allergies. So that's something that, you might want to have on file for your patients. And if I add that here, what's really cool is when I go to the next step, the AI is taking this into account. So I'm going to click sample records. So you're going to see this will take a couple seconds. Now the AI is generating sample records based on what we've added here. So you can see right away, there's an allergies field and it's added peanuts, penicillin, and none for this other user. And so these dates are, everything. It's just populated by the AI. Keep in mind, this isn't the final data for the app. Like this is just 3 records for each sheet that will just be an initial starting point. Obviously, if I'm using this for a real product, then I'm going to be populating it with real data. So if I want, I can even add more here, but it's not really that useful. It's just in case you have a specific need that you just want to get in there right away. So looking at the appointments, this is looking great. We've got our patient ID. Those align with the 3 patients that we have here. And yeah, this looks really, really good. It's exactly like how I would have set it up, but I got it done with AI. And now I'm going to click on the next button. We're going to kind of restart, but now we're on the pages section. So it looks really similar to the spreadsheets, but it's not. Again, we just want these 2 pages, patients and appointments. That sounds fine to me. I could even add another page. I could say maybe analytics. Now, this is cool because I'm telling the AI, hey, I actually want an analytics page. I don't know what it's going to do with that, but let's see what happens. So now the AI is going through my 3 pages and it's taking into account my spreadsheets that we created and it's suggesting some things. So it's going to say, hey, on your patients page, we think you should have a table and a form. And they're both going to be connected to the patient's spreadsheet. What's really, really cool is right here, you can click and you could even change this. You could say, actually, I want that to be the appointment spreadsheet. Keep in mind, this is just a preliminary setup. The whole page builder and editor is available after this. So this is just a quick way. You can also change the block. So the AI has said, we think you should use a table, but you could change it to something else. I'm going to leave it because I think that's fine. And then I'll check out the appointments. So here we have all appointments, new appointment, appointment schedule. So we've even got a calendar here. I think that's cool. In fact, I think what we'll do is we're just going to delete both of those other 2. We're just going to have a calendar on this page. So we have patients, appointments, and then on the analytics page, we have a chart and 2 stat blocks. All of these, 2 of them are using the appointment spreadsheet and 1 of them is using patients. So there we go. This is pretty cool. I'm explaining this in detail, but you could whip through this whole thing in like 1 minute if you wanted to. So we're at the last step though. So I'm going to click preview app. Now the AI is actually going to sort of stitch this together and it's going to show us a little preview. So here's my first page with the table and the form. Then we've got our appointments calendar page and we've got our analytics page. This is awesome. These are nice and simple, but we can start really working with these. So I'm going to click finalize app. If I wanted to, at this step, I could click on any of these steps and I could jump back and kind of start again from that stage. Or I could click start again and it would warp me back to the start and I could enter a new prompt. So you can play around with this, but I recommend not overthinking it too much at this stage because really the goal of this AI generator isn't to generate your final app. It's to generate your spreadsheets, your columns, your pages, some of these basics just to kind of get you started and get rid of some of the tedious setup process. So I'm going to click finalize. This is where the AI is actually generating the app, just like if we built it in the user interface. And so now that my app's complete, I have 2 options. I can view the live app, and I just clicked on that, and I'm jumped right into my live app. Like this is a hosted app right now, hospitaltracker.frontly.ai. Very cool. I have this dashboard page, which has a bar chart and 2 stats. And then I've got an appointments page. And right now the appointments aren't showing, but we can go in and essentially, I think we just have to adjust the dates to make sure that they do. And then there's a patients page, which also just has a table and a form. So very, very simple. But again, everything is kind of set up to just kind of work to some extent out of the box. Now, if we go to this option, open in no code editor, well, we're now in the app editor. So this is great. I can go right into making changes. If I want, I can go make changes. By the way, yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to just throw them into the chat. I'll glance up as I can and try to answer. So you can definitely change the domain. When you go to your settings page here, there's this domains option, and you can just add your custom domain. So you do need to already own the domain. You probably need to buy it at I don't know where you buy your domains, GoDaddy or Namecheap or whatever. But once you own that domain and you have access to your DNS records, then you can enter it here. Frontly will generate a CNAME record address that you need to add to your page in your domain host, and then you can have it be your own app. So it could be, yourapp.com, or you can set it up as a subdomain of your website. So if you're already using your www.yourwebsite.com, you could set Frontly up as something like, portal.yourcompany.com. And then so that could be your login portal. And with that in mind, apps by default, I should probably mention this, all of these apps by default have built-in login and sign up enabled. I had to double check if the sign up is turned on by default, but I think it is. So I'm going to log out and I'm on my hospital tracker page. So you can see here that the login is enabled by default. So that's just without having to do anything. If I just go to my, hospitaltracker.frontly.ai, I'm presented with this login page. Now, if I want to enable sign up, I just have to go adjust that so that users can sign up automatically. I believe that's in the users sign up settings, or is that, there's a few different places here. Settings, authentication. Okay. So this is where you determine some authentication related settings. One of them is the enable sign up. I guess when we're generating apps with AI, this is off by default, pretty much just for security, because potentially, you have valuable data in here. You might not want people to just randomly sign up. But if you do, let me refresh this page. So you can see now there's a no account, sign up, and then it takes me to this sign up page. So if I sign up here, it'll jump me right into the app. And then of course, I would probably want to have different controls built in for filtering and stuff like that to make sure that new signups can have access. So Tyler is asking about SSO. So we don't have SSO, but you can create. We have one webhook endpoint that is called the create user webhook, and that does allow you to create users through the API. And so you pass a special API key that is a code for your app specifically, and then the user email and password, and you can create users that way. So depending on what you're using, we have many users that have figured this out, and usually they're using something like Zapier or Make or one of these automation platforms. So you could potentially do that, or you would just have to have them manually create an account. But yeah, there's no way to sort of use the authentication from another system in your existing Frontly app. Maybe someday, but yeah, right now you would just have to sort of have them, whether you create them manually or not, they would need to have an account. Or there is an option to just not have login at all, but that is of course not very secure. So it depends on what your data is. If it's not secure data and it doesn't matter if the public is seeing it, then you can actually set your page to be to not require login, which I can show you right here. So if I go to my page and I go to the more section, there's the published, and then there's require login. So if I want, I can turn this off. You can see right away when I do that, there's this big red error that's telling me, hey, watch out, you haven't made this spreadsheet available, and you made the page public. So we have documentation on that as well. So I won't dive too deep into it, but that's possible. So yeah, Patricio is asking about languages. So there's no one button to adjust the language or anything like that. But most of the text in your app is coming from your spreadsheets, and then also it's coming from the labels that you add and the values and stuff like that. So you can adjust. I want to say somewhat confidently that you can adjust all of the public-facing text in your app. We've tried really hard to make it possible for the translations feature, and so I can just quickly show you what that looks like. So if you go into the settings, there's this whole translations page, and you'll see just a bunch of different text things here all over the app. Sometimes they're as simple as the word true or clear or and. But you can go through and you can see just kind of a quick look here. You can search to find a translation. And if you click on it, then there's the ability for you to enter the translation. And once it's saved, then you can see it here. So as you're going through, yes, it's a bit tedious. I do sort of have it in my mind that we should probably allow, basically build like a little AI tool that allows you to say, I speak Spanish, please translate all of these to Spanish. Or we could just have some defaults for different languages that then users could select, auto-populate them all, and then manually adjust. That would be kind of nice. And so someone's asking about an AppSumo auth thing. I mean, I'm not sure. Like our auth system is pretty nice and very simple. I think we probably will eventually be able to integrate with some other systems, but it's pretty difficult because we do have, there's a lot that we have to control in order to ensure the security of your app. And so a lot of things are pretty deeply integrated with the way that it is now. But anyway, we keep adding new features and integrations. So we are going to keep pushing on what users want. And if more auth options is what the users want, then we'll probably do that eventually. Let me see. I just want to see if I'm missing any questions and comments here. So I could spend all day going through. We've already been on here for an hour, and so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to mention that for anyone who, I see, we got some familiar faces in here, so I know not everyone is new to the platform, but thanks to everybody who has attended. We do have a YouTube channel and also our help center, which has a lot of content. I meant for this to be fairly basic setup, and I think we've kind of gone through that, so I hope it helps. But there's a lot of content about the specific features, and definitely there's some other app build tutorials, especially ones that are using the AI features in their apps for the blog post generator, those kinds of things. And maybe one final point, in addition to, on the homepage, you will find a lot of our tutorials here. You'll also find the app templates. So this is a great way to kind of jump into some existing apps and even install them into your account and see all the things that can be done with Frontly. As you can see here, this is the responsive analytics dashboard. So inside this page, we have a bunch of stats and charts and all these different colors and fun things like that. So if you want to install this, you can click view details and you can just click install this app, and that will make it nice and easy for you to see all the different things you can do. And last but not least, if anyone is new to Frontly and you don't have a plan yet, we will be sending out an offer for a discount on our annual plan. We're going to be offering 40% off to anyone who pays annually for our growth or team plan. So check the email for that will be coming out, and that email should also include a replay of this webinar. So thank you so much, everybody. It's great to connect with you, even if silently on your end. But we have our Discord. Definitely join the Discord if you haven't already. I'm gonna probably you're all already in there, but I'm just gonna paste a link just to make sure that you all have access. So I'm gonna put this in the chat. And I'm also going to put it in this takeaways section, which I don't really know how it works, but you might be able to see it. So anyway, there we go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for attending. It's great to connect. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. David, I am not a huge fan of Discord either. Someone else who was on the team before kind of decided on that, and we just went with it. And now we have 1,400 people in there. So I have a feeling that we're probably not going to be changing that anytime soon just because of the scale of it. If there are any unanswered questions, I think what we're going to have to do is, I think once I close this, I won't be able to submit responses. But if anyone has any questions that are unanswered, please just copy and paste it. You can reach out either in the Discord or into our live chat in the app, and we'll make sure to try to answer everything. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We will talk to you soon.